I am Father Timothy Gallagher, an Oblate of the Virgin Mary. And ever since I joined the Oblates of the Virgin Mary, I've been fascinated by the figure of the Venerable Bruno Lanteri. In fact, I did my doctoral thesis on his life and his work with the Ignatian spiritual exercises, have taught his life and his teaching for many years, and most recently dedicated 5 years to writing the biography, Begin Again, the life and legacy of Bruno Lanteri. Venerable Lanteri is above all a man of very deep faith that underlies everything in who he is and how he lived. His relationship with the Lord Jesus was absolutely the heart of everything. What drew people to him then and what continues to draw people to him now is his continuing call to hope, to begin again, to never let discouragement have the final word. No matter how dark things seem, no matter what the trouble may be, no matter what kind of a spiritual corner we've backed ourselves into, that the door is always open. We can always begin again. Now, surrounding that is a deep life of the sacraments, a faithful life of prayer, and all the different means that our faith gives. But it's that message of mercy and that message of hope which gave such solace and encouragement to the people of his time, which continues to draw people to him today. From the day that I entered the Oblates of the Virgin Mary, which is over 40 years ago now, the person of Venerable Lanteri exercised a kind of fascination for me. It's one of these things that you can't explain, but your heart is just very strongly drawn to something in a way that impels you to follow it or pursue it. It was like that with Venerable Lanteri. The impulse to learn to read Italian for me, I entered our community in Italy. The impulse to learn to read Italian for me was that I wanted to read one of his biographies in Italian. And the same thing happened later with other languages when I realized that I needed to be able to read these to get to know him well. Throughout my years of theology, I found myself reading all that I could get my hands on. When it came time to do my license and later my doctoral thesis, it was clear to me that I wanted to do it on Father Lanteri. And these were years in which I just was completely immersed in his person and for a few years in his actual manuscripts, which I used in the writing of my thesis. It's a powerful thing to get to know a figure of holiness, not through the medium of someone else's writings, but through about the most direct contact you can have, and that is the actual paper and ink with which the person expressed the hopes and joys and fears and desires and longings of his heart, which I did in the years that I was writing the doctoral thesis. That continued over the years as I was asked to teach the life and the spirituality of Venerable Lanteri to our novices, for example, or in other settings. And then the 5 years which I spent completely dedicated to the person of Father Lanteri. So I would say, if we go back to the years of writing the thesis and then writing the biography, I would say that that biography came out of about 8 years of complete dedication to getting to know Venerable Lanteri, becoming thoroughly acquainted with his life and writings, the historical setting which gives life to the events of his life. And something in me grew. The initial fascination never waned. But especially, I would say, in these last years, the 5 years of writing the biography, my appreciation of Venerable Lanteri as a man, with his struggles. There's a chapter in the book called Spiritual Struggles, with the burdens that he carried, the physical burdens and the struggles of the church in his day, with the disappointments which were a part of his life, and which in the midst of all of this, here is a man who lives completely dedicated to God, faithful, with a life of prayer and dedication, and a man who loves things that I find my own heart loves as well, things like the Ignatian spiritual exercises, or promoting the mercy of God, or that message of beginning again. All of that took on a whole new depth and richness and color for me as I came to know the man more deeply. At this point, I am utterly convinced of the heroic sanctity of his life, which the Church declared in the decree declaring him venerable. and hold the deep desire to see someday his beatification and canonization.